Thank you. Hello, everybody. All right, gonna have to get the energy level up a little bit in this room. So, I'm gonna come straight out with it. I love Norway. I've been here like 10 times. We have family close to Oslo, and I've even been twice to Bergen. And yesterday, when I was out fishing on the fjords, and a lot of you know because you're very social creatures. I mean, my photos are all over Instagram and Snapchat even, and Facebook. I realized something. I realized why I love Norway so much. And it isn't really the nature. You know, I come from Australia, and Vanuatu, a tropical island. The nature there is also beautiful. It has something to do with it. And it certainly isn't the weather. I mean, it was freezing out there, raining cats and dogs. It was the people, the Norwegians. Because you guys got it right. You're able to make the right choices. You're able to prioritize life in the right way. Decide what technology should play in your lives. I really respect that. And the other thing that really got me is this entrepreneurial spirit. This spirit that you're on top of the world. You're not expecting anything from anybody. If something needs to get done, you do it. Because my definition of an entrepreneur is someone who finds a way, often in high risk and uncertain environments. Someone who solves problems. So here I am 2 weeks ago, lying in bed, sick. Monday it was. And on Friday, I had the biggest talk of my life. Over 1,000 people, tough audience, tax attorneys and lawyers. And I was sick. I had no energy. I had no voice. Could hardly speak. And my problem was how am I going to bring the energy and the voice to the stage coming Friday? Pretty scary. What's a speaker without energy and without voice? Tuesday, I'm still sick. Wednesday, I'm starting to get a little bit better. And on Wednesday afternoon, I get a call. It's from TED, you know, TEDx. And they ask me, would you like to do a TED Talk tomorrow, the day before the big presentation? Who here would say yes to such a question? Come on, you can raise your hands. Most people would say no, it's crazy. You prepare for a TED Talk. It goes up online and it needs to be good. Well, as an entrepreneur, there's only one answer to that question. Yes. I said yes, but then they told me the theme of the event, crossing borders. And they were pretty strict on it. If you're going to talk, it's got to be about crossing borders. So I went to bed that night without a story. I had a big problem. But no worries, because entrepreneurs solve problems. So I set my alarm for 5 a.m., and by 7 a.m., I had my story. And that afternoon, I gave a really cool TED Talk. I nailed it. Most people said it was the best TED Talk of the event, and the most relevant to crossing borders. And what did I do? I talked about technology. Because technology doesn't have any borders. It disrespects borders. It dematerializes. It only respects them to the level of the regulation we impose upon it. So it was the most amazing experience. And the title of the talk was, "The Choice is Yours." It's our choice how we use technology and the technologies we adopt. And so, why am I telling you this? Opportunity is all around you. It's everywhere, every second of every minute. But do you choose to see it? Because unless you act on that opportunity, it means nothing at all. Opportunity doesn't just happen. You create it. You know, there are 3 keys to success in life. The first one is putting yourself in the right place at the right time. The second one is knowing that you're there. And the third one is taking action. That's a quote from Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. So let me start how I started the TED Talk. This is how I started. And a lot of the stuff's going to come back through this presentation on what I did for the TED Talk. It's about technology and about the choices we make on how we adopt this technology. So you see, technology starts off magical. It's Steve Jobs walking out on stage with his wonderful creations, and we all want one. And then it becomes manic. It's when it's hyper-connecting us. pinging us from every which way, taking our time and our attention. And then it becomes toxic. It's when we're all sitting around the dinner table with family and friends, staring at our screens. Or when technology automates us out of a job, because it just does it better. So, in order to understand the era we're in now, I want to take you back 2 decades. 1997, a very remarkable year. It was the year Steve Jobs came back to Apple after being fired from the company 12 years earlier. Now, you've got to realize this was a very inspiring on the one hand, but also a warning sign on the other, because remember, he never gave these things to his kids. And this was a pivotal moment in human history, the rise of the internet, the rise of connectivity, this connection machine that disrespects borders. You know, on the one side, you've got the US and the UK hyper-connecting themselves over the last 2 decades. And now, they're backing off, trying to go back to the way it used to be. And on the other side, you have China, who have been protecting themselves from this connection machine. They know the dangers of hyperconnection. And now they see opportunity to expand their borders through technology. So when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, he launched the Think Different campaign because he realized that nothing remarkable in this world comes from following the status quo. This was a campaign about thinking different, about us really, about the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the ones that push the human race forward. We wrote books about them, we made movies about them, they inspired us, we even let them lead us. But don't be fooled. These crazy ones, they're all around us, maybe even in this room. You know, as we move from a world of products to services, we're going to need you to think different. As we move from a world of ownership to access, we're going to need you to think different. And as we move from a world of scarcity into a world of abundance, we're going to need you to think different, because that's all technology does. It turns scarce resources into abundant ones. Who here uses Spotify? Everybody. You know, we used to buy a cassette, a CD, an MP3, and now we access 42 million songs for the price of a cup of coffee. Mobility, we used to own our means of transportation, but now, in hyper-connected cities, we access mobility through Uber and Lyft. It's technology that gets us from A to B, if you let it. And energy. You know there's enough energy from the sun that hits the Earth's surface in 1 hour to power global energy needs for a whole year. The problem isn't energy. The problem is access to energy. And solar panels solve for this. Let's take a look at this piece of paper. You know, paper is the biggest innovation known to man since the rise of the internet. This represents the printing press 500 years ago, Gutenberg. And it represents our ability to store information outside of our heads, to write things down, to be able to communicate afar across borders through books, for example. Because we have a problem, and that's that we forget. So we use paper to remember, we make notes. But even now, this is becoming obsolete. I mean, who uses paper now? We send email, we chat, we use Messenger. Even our invoicing and contractual systems, they're all being digitized. Digital transformation. Paper's becoming irrelevant. But in this piece of paper is the key to the power of technology. And for that, I'm going to need 2 brave volunteers to come up here on stage. 2 people that are willing to take the arrows, really put themselves on the line. Brave pioneers. Adam and Eve, you know, let's keep this gender diverse. Anyone up for it? It's pretty easy stuff. I'll guide you through it. Come on. Come on. There's got to be a couple of people in here. Okay, I'm going to walk back, and I want to see 2 people following me. Yes! One more. A guy. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Come on, Beth.
Andreas? Hey, there he is. My mean man. The reason why I'm here. Okay, grab this piece of paper. All right, a little exercise. It's mindset training. I want you to think of a number. How many times, you'll do it in a sec, how many times would I have to fold this 0.1 millimeter thick piece of paper in half in order for the thickness of the piece of paper to reach the moon? 384,000 kilometers away. Start thinking. Think of a number. So you can start folding and count as you're folding. 1. Good. 2, 3. The thickness of the piece of paper to reach the moon. People coming up with numbers in their heads? How are we going?
It's 5.
5, yeah, good. Yeah, 6. If you're really strong, you can get to 7. No one's ever gotten to 8 yet. 6?
6.
7.
Ooh,
Andreas.
you didn't. Struggling with 7.
I'm still struggling with 7, actually. All right. That's awesome. A hand for our brave pioneers. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you. All right, so scarcity. I lose the ability to fold, right? It's a scarce resource, but technology solves for that. Technology makes things abundant. Apply technology to this, and I can keep folding. And just so I have a little bit of math in my presentation, because we all love those math, and we all love those numbers, right? Let's have a look at the math. So at 7 times, I reach the inability to fold. At 14 times, I reach the height of a small child. At 25 times, I cross the finish line of a marathon. At 30 times, I hit a satellite. And at 42 times, I land on the moon. But at 50 times, I reach the sun. And at 100 times, you cross the entire observable universe of 46 billion light years. That's the power of technology. That's the power of exponential growth. You see, technology grows exponentially, but we don't. As human beings, we've evolved over millions of years. But technology evolves over years to months, and now with self-learning algorithms, weeks, hours, and minutes. 100. Remember when we were kids, there was that number that you just couldn't go over. It was the biggest imaginable number. Maybe you have kids now that are about 3 or 4. It's 100, right? They can't think past that. It's the biggest imaginable number, but maybe they aren't so far from the truth. Maybe they were born thinking exponential, thinking big, and we just pull them back to the status quo, to where we came from. It's humanity. We think linearly. Has anyone looked up what the word Google means? Jon was here. Are you still here, Jon? I think he had to catch a flight. Google's actually a misspelling. That's how nerdy the founders were. I can say that now. You know, they misspelled their own company name. It's actually Goggle. And Goggle means something. It's a number. It is 10 to the power of 100. You see, anything to the power of 100 is basically infinity to human comprehension. So the Google founders, they were onto something from the beginning. When you apply technology to things, you give it exponential growth. And that gives limitless possibility. We're in Norway. Think, anyone know who this is? Yeah, Musk. He's quite popular here. I know he's having a tough time right now, but that's what happens when you're a pioneer. Right? You take the arrows. Settlers take the land, and those arrows hurt. But he catalyzes industries. He reinvents industries. Who here has an electric vehicle? Yeah, a lot of you. Who here actually owns a Tesla? Oh, less. Who here would like to own a Tesla? Ah, more. Who here wouldn't be found dead in a Tesla? Not that many. Okay, this is a good gauge, because you see, these things drive themselves, powered by algorithms. Trust in technology. Give away control. You know, it starts with a smartphone, helping us remember things. Now we don't have to remember those phone numbers anymore until we use our phone, and then we got a problem. Right? And then it's those apps like Google Maps. Some people can't even get around without those navigation systems anymore. And they don't carry maps in their cars anymore. And then it becomes self-driving cars, where we lose our ability to drive. We don't even have to get driver's license. 20, 30 years from now, you're going to look back and go, how did we ever put people behind these wheels? I mean, they keep making mistakes, they keep crashing into things. It's pretty dangerous. So while Elon Musk is redefining mobility with Tesla, SpaceX, Hyperloop, the Boring Company, trying to solve the traffic problems, just go under cities, and redefining energy with SolarCity and gigafactories, and even redefining and challenging what it means to be human with Neuralink, connecting our brains to the internet, make us smarter. The best minds of our generation are trying to figure out how to get people to click more ads. Now, Yon's gone. We all know who they are. It's our tech friends. And we don't blame them. We can't blame them. This is their business model. It's how they raise all these funds in order to bring us these wonderful innovations that we keep adopting into our lives. That's our choice. So, let's see. I'm just going to grab a little bit of water. We're going to go in a new direction now. It's because the future of digital marketing will always be the same. It's never going to change in our lifetime. It's always going to be about making the emotional connection with people and using technology and data to the better at scale. You heard it from Louise this morning. We're entering into a world of marketing automation, powered by AI, machine learning. We're having to reskill ourselves. We call it this automated, full funnel, data-driven marketing automation at scale if you want to. But don't forget that it is our feelings and our emotions that drive every single behavior and every single action we do in our lives. And it's about connecting with people on an emotional level. People don't actually remember what you say. People don't even remember what you do. People remember how you made them feel, because feelings give rise to emotions, and emotions are what makes memories stick. When I was in the US a few weeks ago, someone said something pretty profound on a podium. He said, reach for somebody's wallet, and they'll protect their groin. They'll even turn their back on you. But reach for their heart, and they'll give you their wallet. The biggest opportunity over the coming decade, as we go more and more into technology, will be going from a transactional to a relational ecosystem, creating abundant transactions through building meaningful relationships. And that is the challenge right now, because it's tough to do that through technology. So 2 years ago, I built a model to try and answer this problem. Now, this is still writing a book on this. There's no strategic framework yet. I'm working on it. But it's a model. It's a compass. It helps you build strategy. It helps get perspective on things. It's how we use the internet and how these platforms service us. So on the one side, you have the platforms. And this is really about keeping whatever we give to it secure so that it doesn't impact us in negative ways. On the other side, it's the privacy. It's us. It's who we are. It's what we give to the system. And on this side, I summarize the whole thing in one word, in one sentence. The World Wide Web are linked devices that generate data. The whole thing in one sentence to try and help people understand, what is this cloud? And we call it IoT because it's just a lot of things connected to it. Soon IoE because we're perpetually connected. Connected here. Well, I'm in airplane mode right now, so. Whew. And big data, because there's just lots of it. And when you can connect it in meaningful ways, you can draw insights. And those insights, that information helps you make decisions. It helps you make choices as an organization on how to build better relationships. And where Google came onto the scene way early, they understood this from the beginning. They collected the world's information and made it universally accessible and useful. That is their mission statement to this day. Because information defines everything about us. It defines our reality. It influences how we make decisions. So they collected this world's information, they put up a search bar, they put the world behind it, and we went there and we asked them questions. We told them what we wanted, the holy grail of marketing. I say marketing is about turning needs into wants. Just ask what people want. So they built this search bar, and you told them what you wanted. And in that moment, they know your intent. And in that moment, they can deliver highly meaningful advertising. And they start doing it by understanding your needs and wants, making it personal, building trust by acting in your best interest. Now, I'm going to go pretty quickly through this because the next slide is actually working backwards through this model, through the 7 mindsets that you need to build better customer relationships. They build experiences that earn your attention. They empower you by solving your problems, because life is just a million problems. They drive value by managing expectations, and ultimately, they need to help you live a happier, healthier, and more productive lives. And that's what makes this sustainable. That's what makes you come back to this thing called the internet. You know, there are 3 things that we all aim for in life: health, turning up for life; wealth, enjoying its bounty; and happiness, which isn't necessarily a destination. It's a mindset. It's a state of mind. You create it from within. And we will never admit to health because we take it for granted till it's too late. We'll never admit to wealth because it makes us feel guilty. Some people are less well off than us. But we'll always admit to happiness because at the end of the day, as you get older, you'll start to judge your life by the amount of days you're happy in a year. So happiness, the first mindset. How do you find it? Well, you find it through the relationships that you have with people, your family, your friends, your colleagues, with places, like this place here in Bergen. It's addictive, isn't it? You can't leave. And this place here, this is where I'm born. It's Vanuatu. It's a little tropical island. It's where I spent the first quarter of my life. This makes me happy, so I'm sharing it with you now. But it's also found in the little things, small acts of kindness, a feeling of importance and appreciation, which is what drives us in our workplace. Feeling appreciated for the contributions that we make and feeling important, this sense that we matter, that we're turning up for a reason. Now, reverse engineer that, make people feel appreciated and important, they'll give you everything. It's not found in more, it's often found in less. It's not found in hyperconnection, it's found in the meaningful connections. These connections define us in the end. A little strategy, how to be happy. It's really simple, but not easy. Lower your expectations. Be appreciative and grateful for the things you already have, the things you've earned, the things you've worked hard for, the things that are yours. But did you know you can also manage your customers' expectations and even set them in the long term? Let's have a look at 2 companies that were very successful at doing that. One of them I've mentioned already. It's the biggest company in the world, past the $1 trillion mark, Apple. Very product-focused company. Now, they could have launched the iPad before the iPhone. They had it. Actually, Elon Musk had it in his Teslas in 2004 already. The iPad was around, but you would have gone from a quite good laptop down to this awkward tablet that didn't even have a filing system. You weren't ready for it yet. Instead, they launched a smartphone. Now you went from a dumb phone up to a smartphone. That was pretty remarkable. Plus, they trained you on how to use the iPad. It was a remarkable journey. It's one of the keys to Apple's success. Another company, Zappos. Anyone ordered shoes from Zappos by any chance? Very US-based company. Zappos, the first online retail to sell shoes online, 1999. People were still dialing into the internet. Some people didn't even know what it was yet. And they wanted to sell shoes. That's a pretty crazy idea. You've got to try these things on. And they had a strategy around happiness. It was very simple. Understand the expectations of your customer, under-promise, over-deliver. Make them happy. That's how you make people happy. Over-deliver on your promises. And they were obsessed about customer happiness. And so when you ordered those shoes in 1999 and 2000, they said you'll have them in 5 days. And that was pretty remarkable already. But those shoes came the next day or the day after. And they didn't just come alone. They came with a box of chocolates, a bunch of flowers, and a note that says, "Thank you, you are important to us. We appreciate your business." And it made people feel special. Guess where you went when you needed your next pair of shoes? So value. Value in a relationship context is really about managing expectations. Under-deliver, people feel shortchanged and they'll complain. Do that over and over again, they'll start to complain so much that they'll be hunting around for alternatives, flirting with your competitors. But over-deliver, and they feel like there's value. But you don't want to overdo it, because that's where a lot of companies go wrong. They just go all out and they give everything. Then they can't keep up with the demand, because the more you raise the bar, the more these expectations raise with it. So eventually you're opening yourself up to disruptive innovation from your competitors because you're showing what you've got, and you're putting pressure on your resources. So you just want to over-deliver just a little bit and start making that a habit within your organization. And it doesn't just attract customers, it also attracts employees, because everyone loves to work for a company that makes people happy by over-delivering on things. Happy customers. And over time, you start winning over people's hearts, and you start becoming their obvious choice. But now we have the different generations to deal with, people that have been born into different eras, X, Y, and Z. The Z generation, born into technology up until 23 years old. Some people call them the zombie generation, glued to their screens. Poor souls. And, hungry for content, short attention spans, fragmented attention, entitled, because that's what technology does to you. So for these people, you need to give them, you don't have that much attention, so small, short, snackable content that's going to grab their attention and then deep down into their emotions so they remember you. And then you've got the Y generation. Some say they've been dealt a bad hand. It's the millennials, anyone up until 38 years old. They've had to develop through technology, and it was very confusing. It was confusing for all of us. What should the role mobile play in our lives? What should the role social media play in our lives? And they ask the why questions, because they need to understand, because they're confused. So as a brand, you need to explain that to them, why they should listen, why should they do business with you, why should they care? And then you've got the X gen, the Steve Jobs generation, people born in the 60s and 70s, up until about 50 years old. They challenge the status quo. They're the leaders of today, but responsible for breeding the leaders of tomorrow. When these people see problems, they solve them. Which brings me to the next mindset. It's about empowerment, and this is really about solving problems. Life is one big problem, and that's what we're all going to die someday. We can't get out of that. But if you break that down, this big problem we're solving every day, it's actually millions of little problems, and tech startups have gotten onto this, because every time you solve one of these problems, it gives you meaning. From satisfying your hunger, to being tired and sleeping, to getting around. These things give you meaning, and tech startups are solving for these problems, often through technology, using data. And the purpose of business is really to solve these problems. So do you know what problems your customers have? Are you listening? Are you asking the right question? Are you identifying these? And are you using technology to try and solve them? Are you using the data to try and solve them? Because technology creates abundance, remember? It will solve anything in the end. The more important questions are, what should it be solving for? And are there not things that are left for us to solve? So this iPhone, for example, it's a behavioral space. This is what made it so successful, a behavioral space. When I look at it, it's a reflection of me. And it's the iPhone. It's me. And I get to build it. Nobody else. It's my choice. Every single app I put on this phone solves a problem for me, at least one. And when it doesn't, I get rid of it. And it creates an experience and earns my attention, and boy, are we paying that attention. Which brings me to the next mindset, experiences, which is all about earning attention. And we pay. Remember at school when your teachers told you, pay attention? Thousands of times, right? We heard this. And your parents, if you want to do well in life, pay attention. Well, we're paying attention all right, except this time, we're paying it to the big tech companies through our technologies, through our screens, through our feeds. And they're getting very rich, of course, because in our attention is our behavior, and in our behavior is our data. So the experiences of the future, and we're seeing it already, are going to be these mixed experiences, merging the physical and the digital. And what better company to bring up than Amazon, who's about to come to Norway, by the way. They're relentless. Actually, a little exercise, if you want, I'll just take a sip of water. If you type in relentless.com into your browser, guess where it leads to? Amazon.com. It'll redirect you. Jeff Bezos purchased Amazon in October of 1997. Again, another 1997. But 3 months before that, he purchased another domain, and that was relentless.com. This guy's not about to stop. Gives you an idea of the mindset that he has. So, Amazon, the poster child of mixed experiences, they bought Zappos a decade after Zappos was launched in 2009 for $1 billion because they had the same philosophy, customer happiness, the most customer-centric organization on the planet. You know, they bought Whole Foods last year, $13 billion. Across 473 locations across the US and the UK. Why did they do that? Whole Foods, I mean, it's a supermarket on the ground. It's because they're merging the physical and the digital. They're wanting to know how we live our lives at a ground level, at a community level, how we're shopping for nappies. What size are they? Because that says a lot about what's going on at home. And how health conscious we are. What are our habits on the ground when we're disconnected from this digital? And they built Amazon Go, these tech and data-driven stores. Remove all the friction out of retail. You just walk in, swipe your phone. You're on Amazon Prime, of course. You take what you want and you just walk out. Remove all the friction, similar to Uber. Click a button, car pulls up, you step in, you have a pleasant conversation, and you just walk out. Take the friction out of technology. Create flow. And they have Amazon Fresh, trying to connect all of the touch points all the way to your door, not leaving it up to some third party to screw it up at the last minute. And this is about customer centricity now. This is about owning touch points. Every single touch point where the customer needs you, you own the relationship, not sharing it with anybody. It's very, very disruptive. It's an omni-channel approach from every single direction with the customer at the center. And then they slap an Alexa onto it. Smartification of everything, more data, more insights, better products, better services, better experiences, and very, very personalized. That's what Alexa is. It's a relationship you have. It's very personal. And this is now about addressing needs and wants. Remember, I'm working through meaningful connections backwards here, so we're at the bottom now. This is about addressing needs and wants. And I heard a little story from Eric. They were trying to get a speaker on trust. She cost a lot of money, apparently. One of the best speakers on trust. But I'll tell you one little sentence on how to build trust. It's really simple. Act in the other person's best interest. That's it. That's how you build trust. When you act in other people's best interest, in your clients' and your partner's best interest, they'll come back for more, and they'll start trusting you. And you have to keep doing that in order to earn that trust over time. And it's about using technology to do that better, because people expect it now. If they're going to be giving you their data and you're not using it, then you become irrelevant over time. They're going to start flirting with these tech companies that do. And when you look at Amazon, for example, so this data is everywhere. It's in your stores, it's in your assets, your website, your apps, it's in your channels from Facebook to search, to display. Are you using it? Because Amazon is, you know, they say if you behave enough with Amazon, it knows you better than your partner. It's a discovery engine. It's a recommendation engine. Those 50 million books out there, how does anyone know which one's right for me? Amazon knows. And at the end of the day, what Amazon does, it helps you make better choices, which is the next mindset, choice. Because everything in life comes down to a choice. You need to help your customers make better choices and ideally choose in your favor. There are two things that we must do in life we can't get out of. I mentioned one of them, that's die. And there are 500 Silicon Valley startups trying to solve for that problem too. And the other one is make choices. We can't get out of it. And even if we try to get out of making a choice, all we're doing is really allowing somebody else to make a choice for us. We're still choosing that. And these iPhones, these smartphones that we have, well, they're decision-making tools. They help you make better choices. As a consumer, I go to a search engine, ask a question, it gets me insights. I can make a choice. And if I don't make that choice, I outsource that choice-making to an algorithm to make it for me. And as an organization, when I have these smartphones out into the ecosystem, when my customers are behaving with it through websites, through apps, it gives me insights on how to make better choices, on how to steer my organization in order to serve those customers better. At the end of the day, it's about empowering people to make better choices through the information they have, through content, as we call that as marketers. This content, which is everything between you and the customer. Everything. It's your store. It's your assets. It defines you. It defines who you become. But technology is ever evolving and attention is ever fragmented. Behavior keeps changing. So you have to stay relevant. You have to stay fresh and updated. You know the rules of a 21st century? Now, these are buzzwords, but they do say something. Be on demand. Be connected. Be shareable. Be customizable. I'd like to add one more. Be remarkable. Because if you're not, you're invisible. Because we're in a hyper-connected era where it's so noisy. And you have to stand out from the crowd. You know, there are two types of people in this world. There are people that see problems, and they choose to complain. They choose to complain forever. Well, there are people in this world that see problems, and they choose to solve. They choose to see opportunity. They choose to build a better world. The question you need to ask yourself is, who are you? And what choices are you going to make? Because if you're not making them, someone else is for you. So this is a quote that was given to me by a person I respect a lot. He trained me as a speaker. And it's not meant to be arrogant. It's meant to get the best version of you, to be the best version of who you can be. But also as an organization, towards your stakeholders, towards your customers, towards your employees, towards your investors. Be so good they can't ignore you. And as teams within an organization, trying to have more impact, trying to get the resources that you need, the recognition that you need, be so good they can't ignore you. And as individuals. Now, I know that most of you aren't going to do anything about this right now. Your time hasn't come yet. And some of you, it's just a reminder of what used to be. But I can guarantee you one thing, there's at least one person in this room that's absolutely going to do something about it. And right now, I'm talking to you, whoever you are. Be so good, they can't ignore you. Thank you.